Bienvenidos a la franja de arquitecto de tu vida, al programa Hablando de Crianza con Lourdes Gracia.
Hi, Quantica listeners. We're again on an English interview, so I hope everyone is ready for some English again. We have a very special program today. We have a coach from Germany, who is Kim Nicola. Kim Nicola mentors and supports visionary women to choose themselves, step into their feminine, and be the leader in their life. She trained with and got certified by Dr. Shefali Tsavari in the States after she had been teaching mindfulness to children, teens, and adults for over a decade. She offers online group coaching in English and one-on-one packages in English or German. She has a background in holistic medicine and energetics, which she integrates in her work as needed. In the time she's not working for her business, she loves to go swimming, biking, hiking, doing ballet classes online, and making and enjoying lasagna and tiramisu with her two boys, 12 and 15 years old. So, hi Kim, how are you?
Hi, Lourdes. I'm great, thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview. I love talking to you.
Well, I thank you. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm really happy to connect and that this connection is going on after our certification.
Yeah. I'm really glad you're here because some of our listeners have teens actually, and you're a mom of teens, just like me. And they have a lot of questions because that's such a difficult age. Some of them just can't imagine how to have a peaceful parenting journey with a teen, you know?
Yes.
But it can be possible. It just can. So we're going to talk about responding to chaos. Because you're an expert on mindfulness and how to stay balanced in the present moment. Let's talk about an example. Let's say I spent, 2-3 hours making a special meal for my boys, and they come from their soccer game and they enter the house and they get everything dirty and they say, ew, that's awful. And that's how you start your day. Sometimes it's really difficult to be a mom and to get your expectations met with reality. So how do you deal with all of these differences in a day-to-day basis? What do you do as a mom?
Yeah, I so know what you mean, what you're talking about. So I have two boys myself. And the example you were bringing is, I think, a typical example. Every mom or dad has experienced that, I think, already. So with cooking, for instance, and this example, I think what is really important is not to override your own emotions in this positive way and state of, okay, I go into detachment, what I learned, like through the teachings, the wisdom teachings you followed maybe already, where you learned, okay, detach and accept, and then you can go on. I think sometimes this is really the missing part as parents, that we also allow ourselves to feel what we feel in that moment, like maybe disappointment, maybe We are getting angry. Maybe also what I experienced a lot actually is we are getting sad because we just enjoy being with our children. We want to enjoy being a mom, want to enjoy our life or our evening or our weekend. And then now we cooked and put all this effort in it, went shopping, went preparing, and then our children don't want it. They reject it. So I experience a lot of sadness in these moments too. And if we just override that and go like, okay, whatever, eat or don't eat, and I sit here and eat, then I think what happens sometimes is that we also stuff feelings down, right? We don't allow them to be there because we think maybe it's more conscious, more evolved to detach and to be okay with it and to accept.
To not scream.
Yes, right. And not scream. True. But what I think is really necessary is to enter stillness, even for only like 10 seconds, see what we feel, notice what we feel, and then decide how to move on. Maybe sometimes it's good to express also to our children what we feel and to speak about it and just to name it, right? And just to say, okay, you know what? I really put effort in it. Maybe not making it too serious, right? But really in a kind of more light way to reflect and to name what is happening and saying, you know what? I really put effort in it. And this makes me sad. And I think this is actually, it's not only healing for ourselves in that moment, it's also informing the children about what their reactions, their behavior is having an effect on others. And it's not about blaming them. It's not about putting them into a position, you are responsible now for my feeling of being sad. It's not that, of course. It's just naming it and saying, you know what, this really makes me sad. And thus giving them the opportunity also to respond differently. And I've experienced both of it. Sometimes my boys were, yeah, whatever. But sometimes they were like, oh, mom, but don't be sad. It's okay. We are eating it now. Something like that, okay? A version of that. And then we had to laugh. And then it got more, the situation got lighter with that. But they also learned something about, okay, here's someone who put effort in something, and I don't want to take everything as, how do you say it, granted, as, you know what I mean, don't you?
Like it's mine by default.
Yes, true.
So it's okay to talk with your children about your feelings. It's okay to be vulnerable with them. It's okay to be real with them and say, I am sad because what you said hurt me. That's fine.
Absolutely. But I think what's important, this was like the first step was like pausing a little bit, even if only for 10 seconds. Maybe sometimes 1 or 2 or 5 minutes is the better option because you are.
I think you get to do it a second or 10 seconds when you have practice. At first, it's going to be a lot of minutes.
Right. When you have practice or when it's something minor. right?
Yeah.
When it's not triggering you so much, sometimes 10 seconds are enough. But when it's triggering you more, you're like, okay, now I really need to breathe for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the second step is then to just to check in, to feel what is there, how, and
To
then
understand your own feelings.
absolutely. And then to decide, do I want to express something of it? Or sometimes it's also wise to just let it go. Okay, they don't want to eat it. Okay, not expressing it, because you see, for instance, your children at that moment are caught up in themselves, in their life. There's so much going on that they wouldn't listen to you anyway. And sometimes you can just feel that, and then you choose maybe not to talk to them about that and just let it go. So the letting go is also the next step for yourself. And this is then the accepting of the as is, as Dr. Shefali calls it. The accepting of they don't like what you put 3 hours effort in it. They just don't want it. They don't appreciate it. And then to realize it has nothing to do with you as a mom, with
Or
nothing,
with your love.
or with your love. It's exactly, and nothing to do with your worth, as a mom. Nothing.
It's just food for them.
It's
You're just food for them. Because, I mean, when you spend 3 hours cooking something for them, for you, it means something else. For you, it means giving them love. It means giving the best you have in that moment for them. So that's how you get triggered, because for you, it has a meaning, a really powerful meaning about being the best mom who cooks the best meals and gives them the most healthy meals. And you imagine them so happy eating with you, and you have these high expectations about how you are the best mom there is. And they just come in and say, ew. And all of these expectations, they like crumble. Oh no, right? Because you had all this meaning put in that meal. But for them, for the kids, it's just food. It doesn't have to do anything about your love, your expectations, your being a perfect mom, or your need of them being perfect children. They don't know anything about it. They just say ew, because for them it's just food. They don't even know how much time you spent doing it. So it has a different meaning. And that's how it's so easy for them to reject it and so difficult for you to accept it.
Yes.
Because of the meaning you put to it.
Yes, absolutely. I think what you was just saying is pivotal, really. It's really the fantasies we have about them and us and the relationship and the moments we spend together.
Yeah.
And then we can also look, where does this come from, this fantasy? So for instance, in my own life, my expectation of our family life, of being together, spending quality time together, not quantity time, really quality time, was high, because I hadn't experienced that in my family of origin so much. So I wanted to create this beautiful family container where this bonding was possible, where connection was possible. And now, as my children are already 12 and 15 years old, I can say we've experienced so much chaos in our time together. And still, I think they experienced a lot of this, what I wanted to create for them. because it's in the moments in between. It's in the connecting within the chaos that is sometimes just there because of certain factors. We can maybe go into that, but I think what is really practical and a great takeaway is, even if on the outside, in the form, there is chaos sometimes for certain reasons, you can create stillness on the inside. You can create bonding and connection in between. And the children will feel that. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's really powerful because common sense will tell you, if you have chaos, you won't have connection, but you can have both. And sometimes chaos is necessary because it gives you an opportunity to grow and to create more connection from that growing.
Yes.
So when you have chaos, when you have a situation like the one we were talking about, how do you make your body to stop? Let's talk about phase one, when you have to stay still and stop and just breathe. How do you achieve that? How do you stop the screaming? How do you stop this automatic reaction where you say, "Wah!" where you want to attack your children, or when you want to defend yourself? How do you stop that from happening? And instead of that, just stay still and breathe. Because that's the first step, and that's the most difficult one. That's really hard for some people.
I think it's hard for all of us. I really think so. So it sounds really easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sounds so easy. But I think what we all have to realize, it's so difficult. And for some of us, it's maybe even more difficult because of what they experienced earlier in life, right? So, for instance, if you have a history of where things, let's say, where you feel threatened, where things fell apart, where there was chaos in your upbringing, then you might, as then a mom or a dad, you might have the urge to control what is happening because of this fear that this can happen again, that there is chaos, there is, things feel like falling apart when your children, for instance, don't meet your expectations, right?
Yeah.
So if that is the case, and to some degree, maybe it's the case for all of us, because no childhood was like perfect, then your urge to control is higher, right? And if that is happening, in a way, you quicker lose your temper, because you are under this big internal pressure to get things into control again, right?
Right.
So if that happens, it's so normal, and it can happen again and again. And then you start practicing building in this pause, right? What you just mentioned. Pause and take a couple of deep breaths. So you can start to build that by establishing a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice in your day. So to practice daily, because then you will be able to notice earlier oh my gosh, this is triggering me. You will feel it somewhere in your body, right?
Before it turns into screaming.
Absolutely. And then if you, and only if, it doesn't mean even with 10 years practice, it doesn't mean you catch it in the first second. It can mean you catch it in 8 out of 10 times, or maybe only 5 out of 10 times. And that's what I'm saying. It's okay. What is really, really, from my experience, personal and with my clients, what is really necessary is to build in the self-compassion continuously, to understand your dynamic, your urge to control, your inner pressure is happening because something happened to you before, and it's okay. So if your outbreak already happened, to come back, to go back to a place as quickly as possible of accepting what happened, right? That way, I guarantee you, next time something triggers you, maybe 10 minutes later, you will be able to be present, and maybe that time you will be able to breathe in and out 5 times and not get triggered as much.
Okay.
Does
So
it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. It's a matter of practice and self-compassion and getting to know myself, getting to know my history, my triggers, the functioning of my body, right? Yes. How does my body work and responds to each situation? So if something happened when I was a child and it made me feel so defensive, for example, because every time I crashed my toys, my mom came to my room and she started screaming, and she maybe punished me. Then every time I crush something, I'm gonna listen inside my brain a little voice saying, "You are such a bad girl," because it stays with you and it grows with you. You don't have to crush toys to feel that. You have to crush anything.
Yes.
And you get defensive every time you listen to that tiny voice that stayed in your memory, in your subconscious memory. So your kids are an excellent opportunity to listen again to that little voice, because you have again that parent-children relationship. And maybe sometimes your kids will crush their toys, and you will listen to your little tiny voice inside your head again. So you're gonna get defensive, even if it's not you who crushed the toys, even if it's not your toys, and even if your mom doesn't live with you anymore. It just, every time you face a similar situation, you're gonna start listening to that tiny voice, and it's gonna haunt you for the rest of your life, unless you face those situations and start healing your inner child. But in the meantime, what I understand is that it's enough to understand that those wounds are in there, and that voice is going to be a little quieter every time you practice your breathing and your being present and your acceptance in the moment, because you know every time you scream that it's just a wound. It's not that you're a bad mother or a bad father, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what is what is really also important to understand is that the practicing of the pause, the practicing of mindfulness is one part. And this is, yeah, I think it's a beautiful part because it also has so many short and long-term effects, right? That are like, apart from practicing the pause and practicing being more aware what triggers you, it has many more really beneficial effects. But as you know, as a coach trained by Dr. Shefali, we also want to deconstruct the voice you were talking about.
Yeah.
And without deconstructing this voice and getting into a relationship with it and really understanding what she's saying, understanding our feelings that are connected to that voice, letting these feelings be there, allowing them to be there. Without that, we can't, I think, we can't, let this voice getting not as loud anymore.
Yeah.
That was maybe confusing what I said. I don't know.
No.
The voice will not go away by itself just by us sitting in silence and practicing mindfulness, right? There is some more work to do, and this is called the inner work, as we know. And yeah, what is, do you want to talk more about that?
I would like to talk about how breathing can help this inner voice to get a little tinier in time, because every time you breathe and you talk to this voice and you can say, okay, mom is not here anymore. She's not screaming to me anymore. I'm out of danger. So little voice, please go away. You get?
Yeah.
Because breathing gives you the time and space to be able to do that, to be able to recognize that voice and talk to that voice and establish that relationship with your inner child.
True. I think the problem is that we think this voice is us.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of times it's just us speaking to us. I speaking to myself. And this makes it difficult in the beginning to distance because we think that's just me. And also we think this is the truth, right? It's just the truth. I was bad.
Yes.
I was stupid. I behaved stupid. I was a bad mom. And I mean, in a way, you could say, yes, that was stupid. That was bad. That was not exactly being a great mom, how I behaved. But I think, so it's a bit complicated, this process, right? That's why we can't do it from one day to the other. We have first to observe these voices and then distance a little and then connect the dots from the present to the past and see where in the past did I experience exactly that, this feeling, these words, who said that to me, how did I feel then and how did I feel now with what happened with my children, for instance. And then we can connect the dots, right? And then you can say, okay, the voice you are hearing is your mom or your dad. In this situation, you remembered from the past. However, the situation in the present was also a real life example, for instance, of this voice being right. And this is what makes it so difficult to distance, because one part of you is keeping telling you, but it is right. You were bad. You were, I don't know.
Careless, for example.
Yes. And it's very, very difficult to argue against it because it happened. I screamed to my child. I was too rough. I was not listening. I was not being present with my child. So this is, I think, where it's really great if you work with a coach, because then you can create this distance to the present situation. You can connect it to the past, and then you are able to see, okay, I can, next time I respond in this way I don't want to respond.
Mm-hmm.
I can establish self-compassion for myself, see the connection to the past, and with that, and with allowing my feelings to be there, also in the sitting in between in my mindfulness practice, but also in the actual situations. With all of that together, I can transform my experience, because I can heal the parts of the past, and this will transform my present. It will. The triggers will keep continuing to happen. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But you respond differently because now you feel, for instance, threatened. Let's say threatened because you lose control. Your kids are not eating your meal. They are not getting healthy food. They will starve, right?
Right. That's how you think, actually.
Yes. So they will not.
It feels.
So they can't learn. They won't get a school degree, and so on. So you feel threatened, but then you can connect it to the past. Oh, I felt threatened when this happened to me when I was 5 years old. And you have compassion for your 5-year-old girl, and you have compassion for your 45-year-old girl and woman right now. And then you can respond differently. And then certain triggers won't come up probably anymore because you've healed that. And some maybe continue. I think teens rejecting food will continue, unfortunately.
Yeah. Rejecting you in general, spending time with you. Because that's their job, to find themselves. That's why adolescence exists at all.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a really important question, because when you have all this chaos inside of you, when you have all these wounds from the past, sitting still, breathing, establishing a mindfulness practice is really hard, because you have all these voices that you think are your voices, but they're not actually yours. But they keep talking to you and saying things to you and getting all this trash in your head. So every time you sit and you say, I'm going to breathe now, you start listening to all these voices talking at the same time. And you know you have to make your brain blank for saying something, but all of these voices can't stop. How do you make it stop so you have a mindfulness practice that actually works.
Right. Yeah. So I would say two things to that. So first of all, when you experience a lot of chaos, a lot of inner chaos, and a lot of thoughts and feelings, and you really have a very hard time sitting with that by yourself, then I would absolutely encourage this person to join an online course. There are a lot of live courses too. So you can have live mindfulness practices with teachers online in a community with fellow mindfulness learners around the world. And I think a lot of times you also have a community, like a community chat, some possibilities to connect to the others. I would absolutely recommend that, because then you are held in this community, and this will make it easier. Definitely, this will make it easier to feel safe, to experience what you experience at that time, and to allow it to be there. And also you have obviously a teacher to talk to, and to say, you know what, this happened yesterday. What is this about? How can I respond? What can I do? And the teacher can, if he's trained enough, he can respond, right? And you can connect to the others. So if you want to establish a mindfulness practice by yourself, you can also, do it just by yourself with some instructions from a book or from an online course, digital but not live. And then there you will learn that it's not possible to leave your thoughts aside. It's more like observing the thoughts and learning to observe them as something neutral in a way. It's something like clouds, or like people walking by the street. Some are big, some are little, and so on. So it's more, you don't get engaged with the thoughts. And then in between, of course, you want to always go back to your body, to your breath, and so on. So it's difficult to put it in a few sentences, but that's actually what mindfulness is about. It's not about, being relaxed. It's about feeling, oh my gosh, I feel so much under pressure. I feel so much tension in my body. I feel so much chaos in my mind. I feel so much hurting in my heart. It's all of that.
So mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts from happening or stopping feelings from happening. It's not about feeling empty. It's more like being in a balcony where you see all of these people go by. So you start seeing all of your thoughts passing by and all of your feelings passing by, and you just stay in the balcony. You don't get to go on and walk with your thoughts, like attaching to them. Because then you are not in mindfulness anymore. You are just in the thought. The practice is to stay in the balcony and watch them go by.
Yeah, that's right. However, also when you go with your thoughts, right? And then at one point you see, oh, I went with this story. Now I'm thinking about this story or this person or my shopping list. The moment you notice that, and decide to come back to your breath or to your body, it's mindfulness. So it's no problem. So
you can come back to the balcony.
Yes, and that's actually mindfulness too. I mean, there's no, oh, the last 10 minutes wasn't mindfulness. Yes, of course, in a way it wasn't, because you were lost in your thoughts, but that's part of the practice, right? You can't practice it without that happening.
Yes, of course.
So this is how you see the thoughts. The feelings is a little different. Yes, you also want to, in a way, detach from them or distance yourself a little bit from them and not fall into them too much, because then you are like maybe all tears or whatever. And this can happen too, and it's okay too. Sometimes we just fall into them, right?
Yes.
And then we can come out of them again. And next time, maybe we don't fall into them so much, but are able to distance a little bit more, feel them, but also at the same time being able to see, oh my gosh, this is the feeling I always had when I was 7 years old. Right? So you feel them. Maybe you cry, maybe you feel a lot of tension, maybe you feel a lot of anger. But you also, so you are in the feeling, right? You allow the feeling really to be there and to feel the hurting of the 7-year-old. At the same time, you are aware of that now you're 45 years old and you can handle it. And then you can connect to your 7-year-old and actually hold her, soothe her, be there for her, and create this beautiful space for her. And then this part of you is slowly healing. Okay. And this is what feel your feelings, allowing your feelings to be there. This is what it's about, really. It's this allowing them to be there and not distancing in a way of, oh yeah, there, I really felt like this, but you are not connected anymore, right?
Yeah.
You don't allow yourself really to feel the hurting.
Like putting them inside a closet so you don't have to see them anymore and feel them anymore because they are so unpleasant.
Yes, then they can't transform. So Dr. Shefali is saying, yes. So as you know, Dr. Shefali is saying, pain is the portal to growth. So that's it. Through the feeling, you transform something inside of yourself. You heal your 7-year-old, for instance. And this is the transformation that is happening. And then consciousness arises. You can grow. Because next time, guess what? What happens? Next time you're with your child and your child triggers the same feeling in you as you had while you were sitting with your 7-year-old, then you can connect the dots. And this is the growth that has happened. And then you are more conscious in this moment with your child. And this consciousness, this being awake for, oh my gosh, now I have this feeling from the 7-year-old again. This allows the situation to develop in a whole other way, in a whole different way, of course.
Because you can see it from, like you're inside you, but you can see it from outside.
Yes.
Okay. So how can we make sure to feel our feelings that way instead of attaching to our feelings and just stay angry or stay sad or stay frustrated and let those feelings run our lives? How do we keep feeling without attaching?
Yeah, I think it's what we mentioned already. It's really the practicing of feeling. While, for instance, if you establish a mindfulness practice for, let's say, 20 minutes a day, you have a lot of feelings in these 20 minutes, right? A lot of feelings. Like your neighbors are loud and you think, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Can't you be at least quiet at 6 o'clock in the morning so I can have my mindfulness practice? So feelings, lots of feelings, right? So, or you think about something about work already, and this creates some feelings. So then you can practice letting your feelings be there, feeling them, but not totally getting caught up in them. So, and the other thing, what we mentioned already was like the coaching.
Yes.
So if you want to do some coaching for a certain time, maybe a couple of months, then you can go with your coach into certain feelings in the sessions. You have a safe place to do so. You're held by the coach as well as by yourself. And it's sometimes easier to feel certain old feelings which are just threatening, which are very, very difficult. And then you can work through them with your coach. And next time you feel these feelings by yourself, being triggered by something, then you automatically you can make more space for them because it's not as threatening anymore as it was before, because you learn together with your coach, you learned them to let them be there, right? And you're still living.
So the difference is when you get caught up in your feelings, when you get attached to them, they won't go away as easily. They will stay with you and bother you more, and maybe keeping you from getting your peace back. But when you feel your feelings, they will go away. They will pass. That's the difference, right?
Yeah, very good that you mentioned that, because I think one step we might have missed so far. So I think what also is really important is like really making the decision, I want to move forward. I want to grow. I want to understand. I want to get more conscious and awake. And so, for instance, this means in a situation where you get triggered and all these difficult feelings are showing up, not because you were speaking of attaching to the feelings, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we are attached to these bad feelings in a way that we don't really want to overcome them. So, but if you made the decision, I really want to evolve and move on, then it's not always easy, but it can be easier in that moment to really make the steps to detach and to connect to the past, and then to let go of it. And then to also free yourself, but also free your children of it.
So it's a matter of making a choice too.
Also, I would say yes.
Yes, because sometimes we are so in love with our feelings. They are still useful for something, for getting attention, for getting love from someone, for I don't know, maybe we like to cry. So sometimes we are in love with those feelings and we don't want them to go away.
Yes, and we also attach to the roles that go hand in hand with these feelings, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm the poor mom and my children are always like really impossible, then I'm the victim.
Yeah, and I can say, oh, poor me.
Yes.
I am the little baby. I need them to take care of me.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have to get really honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, is this helpful for me in some way? Is this giving me something that I need? Because if you need so much attention and you're getting attention from those feelings, maybe you can get attention from something else and let those feelings go away.
Yes.
So it's about owning the as-is, owning the reality, and being honest with ourselves, and choosing what I will let go and what I'm gonna keep, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so time is not our friend anymore. We're getting to the end of the interview. So what is the final message? What is the conclusion that you would like to leave our listeners?
I think it's great to realize it's both. So it's a commitment and it's practice, but it's also a decision in this moment. And I think evolution, growth can sometimes happen really quickly.
Yes.
So what I notice sometimes in the online space is that there's all this talk about healing, and you have to heal more and another layer and another layer. And from my experience, on the one hand side, this is true. There are a lot of layers, and I certainly had many layers to heal and still have. But on the other hand side, sometimes it's also an illusion that everything needs to take up a long, long time, and that it's a long, hard path. So it's a paradox in a way, what I'm leaving you here with, but it's my experience. It really is. It's sometimes 2 weeks can change everything. But it's also my experience to commit to this work and this path every day and really go in with all your heart is very important too. You can't be sometimes conscious and sometimes you just say, okay, now I'm 5 days really not caring at all. It's, yes, you can do that, but it will throw you back a little, I think.
Yeah. And that's how you respond to chaos.
Yeah.
Okay. So I named this program Responding to Chaos because sometimes we have these automatic answers to everything. And I wanted it to be a more conscious answer. So that's why I said respond, because when you respond, you have to think what you're doing. We have to be conscious about what you're doing. You have to decide whether you scream to your children or not, instead of just screaming and then feeling guilty. So
Yeah.
this pause, this mindfulness practice, this wound healing, this work with the coach, all of these steps that we talked today, that's how we can manage to give our brain the pause needed in that crisis, in that chaos, so I can actually respond with consciousness and decide what kind of world am I giving my children to live in.
Yes. Yes. With consciousness and with compassion, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you so much, Kim, for this interview.
It was so great chatting.
Yeah, so awesome. I always love talking to you. And I think our listeners are going to be really grateful about your words and your teachings. I'm going to say now how they can reach to you. So if you want to talk to Kim, her IG handle is Kim Nicola Lorenzen, where she loves to share what is going on in her business and private life. You can follow her. And you can also find Kim at kimnicolalorenzen.com, where she has a free gift for you. So you can go into the link and then you're gonna find this gift that she's giving us today. I'm gonna publish the interview with the link also so they can find it easily.
Great.
And thank you so much, Kim.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, so everyone, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with us, for your presence. Thank you for letting us get inside your head and your heart and your soul. And we hope this has been useful for everyone. Please keep listening to the radio, so subscribe so you can listen to all of our videos, and keep enjoying our programs. Bye, everyone.